All right, House of Payne fans, I hope everyone's doing well. Please take a moment to hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit that bell notification icon, and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content to the channel. And follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Now, this is more of a mini discussion about situations involving House of Payne characters being missing in action for the time being. And I've seen this on social media over the past few days. People who are really saying that they haven't been feeling the latest episodes of the show because Curtis is missing. And it doesn't seem like Janine or Jasmine will be in any episodes this season and whatnot. It's just so weird. And I have to disagree. I feel like just because certain characters are missing from the cast, it doesn't mean that the show is awful. I mean, hell, what was it like the first and third episode of this season I said were some of the best I've seen, especially when compared to the previous season of House of Payne. I feel like even if characters are gone, that doesn't mean the story can't be good. I said the same thing about the haves and the have-nots for years, that even if Veronica Harrington was killed off, if written right, the show could go on and be better than it was with her there. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't miss certain characters, but I feel like it will be pretty good for Tyler Perry or whoever is writing the episodes to really step their game up because they're not relying on the cash cow. Now, to be completely honest here, when you look at, even though Curtis isn't there, Floyd has kind of like taken the spot, so to speak, for the time being. Yes, Curtis is going to be in next week's episode, but I think Floyd, for the most part, has done a solid job being the male comic relief or comic relief in general over the past few episodes, because of the fact that he has a natural charm about himself and he's not trying too hard to be funny. Not to mention, you have characters working around him to kind of reel him in if he so happens to go too far with his, exaggerated comedy, if you will, especially if it's being too sexual. It's like, he might dip his pinky toe in the river of being vulgar, but he's not going to jump in it head first like Miss Alice on Bruh. And I feel like, again, he does a pretty solid job of filling in the spot that Curtis had. And then on the flip side, with Janine and Jasmine, sure, their characters are missed, but I feel like even though they're not there, there could be statements here and there to let us know that they're still in the continuity of the show. Like, hey, Malik is helping out CJ on this particular day because Jasmine helped out during the afternoon, something along those lines, as opposed to acting like they don't exist. At least Janine had a couple of mentions here and there. Jasmine just hasn't been mentioned at all. I mean, it's just pretty weird. And the past few episodes, I've enjoyed them for what they were. But if you looked at my review from this week's episode, then like the whole whether or not Miranda should have a gun, or whether or not Floyd should sell the barbecue sauce recipe. Those were decent storylines, and I feel like we can all agree that it's good to have multiple storylines going on in an episode, as opposed to last season where we would just spend 25 minutes in the same room talking in circles. I felt like these storylines could have used a little bit more. Like, what if Curtis and Floyd had already planned on opening up a restaurant, and then, their hopes is this one restaurant would blow up, and then they can establish a franchise. And then after coming in second during the contest, and then a sponsor comes up to Floyd, they wave this big amount of money in his hand, in his face, like, hey, we'll buy your recipe if you sell it to us. And then they would reap the benefits of taking that recipe and then making it corporate and just starting a barbecue franchise, where it's like Curtis and Floyd will have a major payday. They would be losing out on a massive generational wealth chain through a franchise. That would have made more sense, as opposed to CJ getting on a soapbox talking about, being sellouts and whatnot. And then with Miranda, I think the gun violence thing, it would have been better if, let's say, somebody in her personal life, like, me and so-and-so from work, we were, at a restaurant, or we were doing this, or somebody tried to mug us, so we needed a gun. That would have been like, yeah, there was a real life experience, or somebody close to Miranda experienced something. Like, if this could happen to them, it could happen to me, not to mention everything on the news. So I feel like even with main characters missing from a show, that doesn't take away from the quality of it. It just means that, sure, the writing might have to adjust, where, okay, Curtis isn't here, so Floyd kind of takes over the comedic aspect. Or, you know, Janine and Jasmine aren't here, so Malik has to set things up. But then again, it's like, it gets to the point of being super unrealistic, because it's like the boys in college, and we know he has another older sibling, well, younger but older than a twin sibling, as well as a mother, yet he's the one running around with a chicken, like a chicken with his head cut off, to take care of his dad, despite having a soon-to-be baby mama and trying to pass classes. Something's wrong here. So I really feel like the show is doing a good job. I mean, it's gotten to the point where I've kind of sort of noticed that Curtis, Jasmine, and Janine weren't even there, because I'm so involved or so invested in the storylines of the characters we do see on screen. So I get it. There are people who have been House of Payne fans longer than I have. Well, I'm kind of an OG, maybe not the WB series, but the TBS series, and they know the series more than I do. But I do have to disagree that just because certain characters aren't there, that doesn't mean the show isn't worth watching. But that's just my opinion. Let me know your 2 cents in the comment section below. Make sure you like and subscribe. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App.